What is going on, YouTube? It's Trevor here, coming at you from the Tesla and FSD, and I wanted to come talk to you today about MicroStrategy stock, MSTR. Before I get into the video, definitely subscribe to the channel if you're interested in crypto, MicroStrategy, MetaPlanet, Nvidia, Tesla, AI, OpenAI, any sort of AI plays, robotics plays, future high growth plays. That's what we talk about on this channel. We try to have a diversified portfolio full of concentrated AI and crypto positions. So yeah, definitely subscribe to the channel. And let me know down below what your MSTR price targets are, as well as your Bitcoin price targets for now between the end of the year. So now that we're done with that, there's a few things I want to talk to you guys about today. First off is probably the biggest news, and that's that Robinhood is considering adding Bitcoin to their treasury, similar to like kind of what Coinbase does, as well as like what Michael Saylor does with MicroStrategy. I don't know. I don't think they'll, end up buying $70 billion of Bitcoin like MicroStrategy has, but like a few thousand Bitcoin, maybe even 5 figures of Bitcoin, I could see it, right? Vlad Tenev, the CEO of Robinhood, he's talked about how he sees that it could be potentially, potentially an option. He wants to ensure that it would align with shareholder values and what shareholders want. So I assume that it would require like a vote, like most of these other companies, a vote as to whether they want to add Bitcoin in the balance sheet or not. But that is something that we could see imminently coming, is Robinhood joining in on the Bitcoin treasury company frenzy. And that's a $130 billion company right there, right? So, and they're $130 billion without any sort of Bitcoin really exposure right now, right? So this is like a profitable, hardcore company. Like you got over $100 billion market cap. You are definitely a blue chip, right? This is basically a blue chip high growth company that's now talking about, adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet, which is a big deal, So you got a few other ones like that, like Tesla's got around 10,000 Bitcoin and they're worth $1.5 trillion. But my point is there's not a whole lot of really large companies like $100 billion market caps plus that have decided to add Bitcoin to their treasury, as well as and just hold on to it for the long term, right? So this is big news. Second is we saw Stretch STRC finally hit $100 per share. So that is that's indicative of Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy basically providing a product to the ecosystem, a product to the marketplace that people enjoy and want to use, right? So that's a big deal too. It's like, for a while, Stretch was like 93, 95, 97, 90. It was creeping up, and now it's at 100, right? So now is when they can play with the dividend more, based upon supply and demand, and it's like we all know, these are all that money is basically going to go to Bitcoin in a leveraged way, in a leveraged safe way, because you can't get margin called on this leverage, right? So there's no margin call risk, but you still have all of the exposure to the Bitcoin, right? So who knows how much Bitcoin MicroStrategy will end up with, Michael Saylor's made it clear he wants to get over 1 million Bitcoin, and there are like 641,000 right now, right? So it does seem like the tranches that they're buying recently, each Monday or every 2 Mondays or so, they're kind of small. Small is relative, right? They're still like tens of millions of dollars. But with respect to their entire treasury right now, it is pretty small. So, but the thing is, right, so the more of these preferred stocks that they offer, it's like they can get more money from these preferred stock. And the biggest deal is like when the Bitcoin rise happens, right? When the Bitcoin rise happens, then they're more collateralized than they were previously. Kind of like if the Bitcoin price drops, they're less collateralized. Now, the cool thing is, when Bitcoin price drops, they're less collateralized, but like I said earlier, there's no margin call risk, right? Their ability to purchase more Bitcoin decreases, right? So like they're not going to dilute more if their MNAV goes down, right? A whole bunch of, and they're not going to be able to. I suppose they could buy more Bitcoin if their preferred shares just like started exploding. People wanted to stretch, people wanted to strive, people wanted to stride, all these different things, right? If the amount of capital that went into those, sure, they could still purchase a lot of Bitcoin with that money. But the real upside, what I'm trying to get at, the real upside in MSTR is when the Bitcoin price goes up, because then they are even more collateralized than they previously were, right? So that means they can take out either more debt in the form of financing, or if their MNAV shoots up a lot because of momentum, they could potentially dilute further in an accretive way for shareholders, right? Or they can also increase the amount offered on each one of their individual preferred stocks right now, right? So they're capped on a certain amount of stretch that they can provide to the marketplace, a certain, like shares, right? A certain amount of stride, a certain amount of strive, etc., right? But if they, and that's all basically based upon collateral, right? So it's kind of touchy, kind of complex, and it feels circular, it feels a little sketchy, but when you actually get into the numbers, you're talking about owning a $1 million house, but you have a $200,000 loan on it, and you can't get a margin call on your permanent residence, you know. So like, let's say your $1 million house goes to only $200,000, so you're basically your net worth is zero, right? Because you owe $200,000 in the house, that's all it's worth. The bank still isn't going to take your house. It's just not going to happen because you're in a position, it could go down to a $5 house. The bank's still not going to repossess your house because you've still been making the payments, right? So it's somewhat similar to that, except for in this case, the dividends aren't even 100% guaranteed. They can say, hey, this month we're not giving a dividend, or next month we're not giving a dividend. Obviously, that would be like worst case scenario. But what I'm trying to get at is all the people calling Saylor a criminal and like MicroStrategy like the biggest Ponzi scheme of the 21st century. It's like, bruh, it's all based upon a hard asset, which is Bitcoin. And I guess we all don't know, but there's like a 95% chance that Bitcoin goes up over time, you know? Like, there's not many risks to Bitcoin. Companies own it, countries own it, high net worths, individuals own it. I mean, yeah, that's my whole argument there. The other thing is, like, if you look at the TA, like the technical analysis on MicroStrategy right now, MicroStrategy is around $250 per share. So it's basically the exact same price it was 365 days ago. So 1 year ago, last November. And after last November, we saw a huge uptick in the MSTR price, right? So right now is an inflection point in MicroStrategy. So that's a big deal also, because it's like, right now, you basically hit like a level where the price is either going to go down a lot or it's going to go back up a lot, right? And we know that the price of MSTR is directly correlated to Bitcoin, right? So if you think about it like that, and then you also think about how there's really nothing but bullish catalyst for Bitcoin, you know, this year, next year, and the years after. Like, I can't really see any negatives as far as like a whole bunch of people selling Bitcoin. You got the BlackRock ETF that keeps buying on these dips, right? You got the Michael Saylors of the world, the Simon Garoviches over at MetaPlanet buying. They're just all buying, right? Who in their right mind is actually selling Bitcoin at 100K, right? Not me. So just all these things are things to think about, you know, and you know, it's like the more, yeah. The more companies that continue to buy Bitcoin, the more the pressure is for other companies to buy Bitcoin, right? So it's kind of like a first mover, which was Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, pioneered the industry, and now more and more and more companies are, you know, doing the exact same thing they're doing, right? Let alone the governments, right? So I just think like right here, we're not going to see much more downside in MSTR. That being said, I could be wrong. Not a financial advisor, don't sue me, bro. But like, from here, I don't see MicroStrategy going down to the 140s, which is what it seems like, if I look at the TA correctly, 140, 150 is like the next tranche down. And for that to happen, Bitcoin would have to be like 60K or something. Like otherwise it just doesn't make mathematical sense. You're talking about a company that would be trading at well below an NAV of 1, and I'm sure that if they were trading at an NAV well below 1, they would buy back their own shares, right? You got to do something when your MNAV gets below 1 to, you know, provide your shareholder base, you know, trust and reliability in these types of, you know, you don't want all your shareholders to just bounce on you, right? So, but also like, if you really do believe in Bitcoin for a long time and you believe in your own company, it doesn't make any more sense than to buy back your own shares at an MNAV less than 1. So, all right, guys, with all of that, you know, I think the Robinhood deal is a big deal, as well as the TA, where it's like 250 really does seem like the bottom. That's why I made the video a day or two ago that it looks like we're at the bottom for MicroStrategy. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a good thing to shake people out, right? The people that were wary in the first place, like get all the short-term investors out, keep the long-term investors in, and then you see less volatility, at least to the downside when it comes to the Bitcoin price. So I don't hate it, but also I feel bad for the people that are selling at lower Bitcoin prices than what it's going to be, you know, pretty soon. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So, all right, with that, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like MicroStrategy or Bitcoin or anything like that. And like I said, let me know downstairs in the comment section below what your Bitcoin price target is for the end of 2025. I'm very interested in hearing what people's opinions are. Have a great day, guys.